Call them what you want. Illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, undocumented workers, but they may not be so scary as many Americans view them. And as far as the way many Americans do view them, call it what you want. Hysteria, xenophobia. Steve Chapman, columnist for the Chicago Tribune, joins us live from Chicago. Mr. Chapman, it looks like as if all this fear that has been drummed up about a year, 2 years ago in the media about illegal immigrants, them being the contributors to crime, that might be a big wash right now at this point. Is that correct? And can you expand that for us a little bit more?
Yeah, it's just not an accurate perception. In fact, immigrants as a whole have a lower crime rate than natives, and that seems to hold true for illegals as well. Since the 1986 amnesty, which we're all told attracted a flood of illegal immigrants, the murder rate has dropped by 37%. Rapes have dropped by 23%. Drunk driving fatalities are off by half. A lot of the safest cities in the country have a lot of Hispanics, including illegal Hispanics. In Los Angeles, for example, which is obviously a magnet for illegal immigrants from Mexico, the murder rates there have declined to levels that they haven't seen since the early 1960s, which a lot of people remember as kind of a golden age.
The other thing I wanted to bring up with you was, in terms of crime, there's a big question as to what exactly crime is. Crime that's supposedly committed by these undocumented workers or illegal immigrants. It depends on how you would classify a criminal. Some people would call people who cross the border a criminal. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit more?
Sure. Crossing into the country without authorization is a crime. And obviously people who do that, which is not all illegal immigrants, by the way, a lot of them come in legally and overstay their visas. That's not a crime. They're here illegally, but they're not felons. But aside from the crime of coming into the country illegally, most illegal immigrants don't commit much crime. In fact, they're less likely to commit crime than you or I.
And then the other thing that I did gather from your article was this interesting fact about not necessarily the people who are crossing over the border illegally into the United States. They're not the ones who are necessarily committing the crimes. It's the second and third generation, the kids, the descendants of those people who are the ones who are adding to the crime rate. Describe that a little bit more for us if you can.
Yeah, I mean, the assumption would be that the illegal immigrants come here and they're violent and they're dangerous, and that turns out not to be the case. You would expect their children and grandchildren to be more law-abiding. In fact, crime rates for every immigrant group, regardless of ethnicity, rise with the second and third generation. That's true of Latino immigrants. It's true of illegal immigrants. And but even when you factor that in, the second and third generation Mexican Americans, for example, their crime rates are about the same as native whites from the same, second or third generation.
So then how do you factor? I mean, how do you reconcile that, what you have just spoken about crime rates, and this hysteria across the country about illegal immigrants pouring in a crime wave, so to speak?
Well, I think a lot of people think, well, they're illegal immigrants, so obviously they're bringing a crime wave by just being here. And if you want to define immigration violations as a serious crime, then in that sense it's true. Obviously, some places have seen a big demographic change in the last 10 years, 20 years. They've gone from being majority white or majority black to being majority Hispanic. That brings with it all sorts of, conflicts, tensions, just new things that can be hard to adapt to. There's no doubt that there are Latino immigrants, teenagers who commit crimes, just as there are white and black teenagers who commit crimes. And people can easily, have one or two bad experiences with an immigrant and assume that that's true of all immigrants of that ethnic group.
Okay. Steve Chapman with the Chicago Tribune joining us today. Thank you so much for shedding some new light and some new figures on the topic of illegal immigration. Thank you so much.